Freedom. It is a concept most of us take for granted. But for June and Jennifer Gibbons, freedom was a terrifying abstraction. They had spent 11 years locked inside Broadmoor High-Security Hospital, surrounded by Britain's most notorious serial killers and rapists. But today, March 9th, 1993, the doors opened. They are being transferred to a lower security clinic. They are finally going home. As the bus rumbles down the highway, leaving the fortress of Broadmoor behind, Jennifer leans her head onto her sister's shoulder. Her eyes are heavy. She whispers something that June will never forget. At long last, we are out. Moments later, Jennifer's eyes roll back. Her body goes limp. The bus erupts into chaos. Paramedics are called. They try to revive her. But Jennifer Gibbons is gone. She was 29 years old. There were no drugs in her system. No poison. No signs of violence. Her heart simply stopped. But this wasn't a tragedy of bad luck. It was a transaction. Because weeks earlier, Jennifer had told a journalist exactly what was going to happen. She said, "We have made a decision. One of them had to die, so the other could finally live."
To understand the end, we must understand the beginning. June and Jennifer were born in 1963 in Yemen, where their father was deployed with the RAF. But their story truly begins when the family moves to Haverfordwest, Wales. Imagine the scene. It is the early 1970s, a small, insular, predominantly white community in Wales. And here arrive the Gibbons, the only black family in the neighborhood. The twins were inseparable. They even had fused birth time, born only 10 minutes apart. But in school, they became targets. Their speech was fast, a rapid-fire Bajan Creole mixed with English, which the other children mocked. The bullying was relentless, traumatic. So, the twins made a choice, a strategic withdrawal from the world. It started slowly. First, they stopped talking to the teachers. Then, they stopped talking to the other students. Eventually, they stopped speaking to their parents. They created a wall of silence. But behind that wall, the communication between them was electric. They mirrored each other's movements. If one picked up a fork, the other did the same. If one scratched their nose, the other followed. They became a single organism in two bodies. Psychologists were baffled. They labeled the girls as elective mutes. They thought the girls were intellectually disabled. They were wrong. The girls weren't slow. They were watching. They were judging. And in the safety of their bedroom, they were building a universe that was far more interesting and far more dangerous than the reality outside. In the privacy of their bedroom, the silence was broken by a frantic, high-speed language. This is a phenomenon known as cryptophagia, a secret language developed between twins. To an outsider, it sounded like birds chattering. To June and Jennifer, it was the only way to breathe. For Christmas 1979, they were given diaries. This gift unlocked the floodgates. They began to write. They wrote plays, poems, and full-length novels. Their imagination wasn't filled with rainbows and ponies. It was dark. It was American Gothic. It was obsessed with consumption, sex, and crime. Consider June's novel, The Pepsi Cola Addict. Written when she was just a teenager, the story follows a high school student seduced by a teacher, then sent to a reformatory where a homosexual guard guards him. It is a story of powerlessness and addiction. Listen to the prose. It is not the writing of a child. It is the writing of a soul that understands entrapment. They set up a chaotic creative agency in their room. They recorded radio plays. But as they wrote, the dynamic between them began to shift. The love was there, yes. But a deep, festering resentment began to grow. They were addicted to each other, but like any addiction, it was becoming toxic. Jennifer, the younger twin by 10 minutes, was often seen as the dominant force. June felt possessed by her.
Nobody suffers the way I do. Not with a sister, with a husband, yes, with a wife, yes, with a child, yes, but this sister of mine, a dark shadow robbing me of my own sunlight, is my one and only torment.
A dark shadow robbing me of my own sunlight. This was not just sibling rivalry. This was a psychological war for existence. They monitored each other's breathing. If one woke up first, the other felt defeated. They measured who was eating more, who was writing more. The bedroom was no longer a sanctuary. It was a cage match, and soon, the cage wouldn't be big enough to hold them. By 1981, the twins are 18. The silence in the house is deafening, but outside, they are exploding. They discover alcohol. They discover boys. They start sniffing glue and drinking vodka, trying to numb the intensity of their bond. For a brief moment, they try to lose their virginity to the same group of American boys, Ken, Jerry, and Wayne. But when the boys leave, the twins spiral. The writing wasn't enough anymore. They needed to manifest the chaos physically. They start committing petty crimes, theft, vandalism, and then arson. They set fire to a tractor shed, then a technical college. It was a cry for help written in flames. They would watch the fires burn with a strange, calm satisfaction.
I am becoming what I am not. I am face to face with my own misery.
But look at the diaries from this period. The violence wasn't just directed at buildings. It was directed at each other. Jennifer writes, "I told her I was going to kill her. I became a raging monster." June writes, "She wants me dead. I can see the gleam of murder in her eyes." They tried to kill each other. Literally. Jennifer tried to strangle June with a radio cord. June tried to drown Jennifer in a river. They were locked in a death spiral. They couldn't live apart, but being together was destroying them. When the police finally arrested them for the arson, the twins didn't panic. They didn't deny it. They seemed relieved. Finally, someone had stopped them. But the justice system didn't know what to do with them. Two silent, black girls who refused to speak to lawyers, judges, or doctors. The judge didn't see troubled teenagers. He saw psychopaths. He handed down an indefinite sentence under the Mental Health Act. They weren't going to prison. They were going to Broadmoor. Broadmoor. This is not a normal hospital. This is the home of the Yorkshire Ripper. The home of Ronnie Cray. It is a place for the most dangerous, violent minds in Britain. And now, it was the home of two shy, 19-year-old girls whose worst crime was burning an empty building. The doctors at Broadmoor believed the twins' bond was the source of their madness. Their solution? Separation. They were put in different wards at opposite ends of the hospital. The result was catastrophic. Without her other half, June froze. She entered a state of catatonia. She would stand in one spot for hours, like a statue, waiting for a signal that would never come. For 11 years, they were medicated. Thorazine, Dipixel, powerful antipsychotics meant to dull the mind. Their creativity died. The diary stopped. The novel stopped. Their eyes, once full of fierce intelligence, glazed over. Journalist Marjorie Wallace, who visited them often, described them as zombies. But even heavily medicated, the telepathy, or whatever you want to call it, remained. Nurses reported that even when separated by thick walls, the twins would freeze in the same pose at the same time. They would eat at the same moment. As the years dragged on, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, they began to realize the truth. They would never be released as long as they were together. The world saw them as a single, dangerous entity. And so, in the quiet corners of the hospital yard, they began to negotiate the terms of their release, the pact.
There is no ending to this story. Our lives are just a long, weary road to nowhere.
They came to a terrifying conclusion. For one to live a normal life, the other had to cease to exist. It wasn't a suicide pact. It was a sacrifice. And Jennifer, the dominant one, the shadow, decided it would be her. March 1993. The twins are finally granted a transfer to the Caswell Clinic, a lower security facility. It is the first step toward freedom. Marjorie Wallace visits them one last time at Broadmoor. Jennifer looks at Marjorie and speaks clearly. Marjorie, I'm going to die. Marjorie laughs it off. Don't be silly, she says. You're getting out. Jennifer doesn't smile. I have decided. The day of the transfer arrives. They board the bus. Jennifer is physically healthy. She has passed all medical checks. But as the bus pulls away, the life simply drains out of her. She rests her head on June. She takes her final breath. At 6:15 p.m., upon arrival at the new hospital, she is pronounced dead. The autopsy was baffling. The cause of death was acute myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. There were no drugs, no toxins. Pathologists usually see this in the elderly or people with severe viral infections. Jennifer had neither. To this day, it remains a medical mystery. But to June, the answer was simple. Jennifer had willed her own heart to stop. She had fulfilled the pact. Days after Jennifer's death, Marjorie Wallace visited June. She expected to find a woman destroyed by grief. Instead, June spoke with a clarity she had never possessed before. She said, "I'm free at last, liberated, and at last Jennifer has given up her life for me." Decades have passed since that day on the bus. June Gibbons lives quietly in Wales. She lives independently. She is not crazy. She is not violent. Since the moment Jennifer died, June has never needed psychiatric medication again. The delusions vanished. The psychopathy evaporated. It was as if the madness was never hers to begin with, or perhaps it was a fire that could only burn when two sparks were struck together.
I am tired of this life. I would like to die and sleep in the earth and hear the birds cry.
The story of the silent twins leaves us with a haunting question. Was Jennifer a monster who possessed her sister? Or was she the ultimate savior, who realized that the only way to save the person she loved most was to leave her? June lives on, carrying the memory of the shadow that once walked beside her. But in the silence of her home, one has to wonder, does she still hear the whispering? This is Dormant Files. If this case haunts you, leave a light on and hit subscribe. We have more files to open.